Coming up in 20 minutes on London Tonight, charities voice their disappointment as Princess Diana pulls out of a gala film premiere.
Tonight's special investigation, we track down those responsible for rip-off repairs.
How one church is fighting apathy with a worship service for the 90s. We visit the Uxbridge church that's offering rave music with a Christian message.
As the king of comedy clubs moves home, we go live to the new Comedy Store with Arthur Smith and Jack Dee.
And we talk to one of Britain's favourite stage stars, Michael Crawford.
All that together with all the day's news and sport, of course, at 6.
From ITN headquarters, the early evening news with John Suchet.
Hello. 2 years ago it was unthinkable, but the unthinkable happened in Russia today. A neo-fascist won the lion's share of the vote in the parliamentary elections. Vladimir Zhirinovsky, an extreme right-winger who wants Russia's military power strengthened and a return to the old empire of the Tsars, now leads the biggest bloc in the new parliament. President Yeltsin's people came second, the communists third. But in a separate decision, Yeltsin won the backing of the people for the new constitution, which gives him, as president, strengthened power.
Today, the apparent victor in Russia's parliamentary elections was holding court. Vladimir Zhirinovsky, the ultra-nationalist, was telling journalists how he hopes to join Boris Yeltsin's cabinet. Zhirinovsky seems to have cause for celebration. Provisional results from some regions show his Liberal Democratic Party with 25% of the vote. That's double his nearest opponents, though results from Moscow and other major centres have yet to come in. The election night party went badly wrong for the pro-Yeltsin reformers. All political groups had been invited to the first ever television results programme at the Kremlin. And from the first, Zhirinovsky and his neo-fascist supporters were confident.
The situation in our country, a big crisis, need a strong government.
At around 3 a.m., the show's presenter announced that Zhirinovsky was in the lead in several areas. But as the extremist leader began to savour his triumph outside, the TV show's organisers suddenly announced that it would close down early. The presenter, Tamara Maximova, got up and left, and the lights went out. The authorities here are blaming a slow results service, but some others are suggesting that the real reason is that the results which are coming in are simply too unpalatable to broadcast. What now seems certain is that a man who openly apes the fascist movements of the past has emerged as a major force in Russian politics. Zhirinovsky is 47 years old. He worked as a lawyer before founding his party 3 years ago. He believes that Russia should be strong and feared, and that the Jews were responsible for World War II. His aims include restoring Alaska, Finland and Poland to Russian rule and doubling Russian standard of living in 3 months. At his recent birthday party, an honoured guest was the Iraqi ambassador, bringing good wishes from Saddam Hussein. After the vote, it seems that Boris Yeltsin will be faced with a new parliament that is fully as extreme and difficult as the one he ordered his troops to crush just 10 weeks ago. Julian Mannion, ITN, Moscow.
And live now to Moscow. Given that fact, Julian, where does this leave Boris Yeltsin?
Well, it looks as if it leaves him facing trouble. The president has won his new constitution, and that, at least on paper, gives him greater powers. But it also leaves him facing this enormous challenge, because he didn't back Vladimir Zhirinovsky. He backed Igor Gaidar, the economic reformer, and it appears, though these results are still very partial and very provisional, that Igor Gaidar has failed. And basically, Zhirinovsky, though he's making some quite kind noises towards Boris Yeltsin today, actually stands for all the things that Boris Yeltsin has promised to change.
And yet, will Yeltsin have to work with this man, Zhirinovsky?
Well, that's really the big question at the moment. As I said, Zhirinovsky today has expressed, for example, the willingness to join Boris Yeltsin's government. He wants a cabinet post or posts for himself and his closest associates. But really, it's quite difficult to imagine a situation in which this progressive leader of Russia, as Boris Yeltsin is portrayed as being, would find himself actually working in the same cabinet as a man who really espouses openly neo-fascist views.
Future will be interesting. Thank you, Julian. Next, on the early evening news, Alan Clark, flexible guidelines were fair game. Anger as teenage driver who killed 2 girls gets 4 years. And the woman climber airlifted from the Cairngorms has died. former Trade Minister Alan Clark says government guidelines aimed at stopping weapons sales to Iraq were designed to allow the widest possible interpretation. He was giving evidence to the Scott inquiry into the Arms to Iraq affair. Mr. Clark said he believed changes to the guidelines should have been announced in the Commons.
The man at the heart of the Arms for Iraq scandal always indicated he wouldn't be a scapegoat for the government. It was Alan Clark's evidence which ended the trial of the Matrix Churchill directors a year ago. He admitted then that some in government knew exactly what sort of equipment the firm was exporting to Iraq. Today, he appeared totally at ease. Asked about the guidelines which prohibited the export of lethal weapons and certain equipment to Iraq, he said, "I regarded the guidelines as being so imprecise and so obviously drafted with the objective of elasticity as to make them fair game." He said he always saw them as a kind of packaging you could wrap around different decisions. But he did admit that with hindsight, when the guidelines were changed, Parliament should have been informed. Although it was thought Mr. Clark could be something of a loose cannon when he came to give evidence, he was very measured in his statements. At one point, he thought it possible that Lady Thatcher, when she was Prime Minister, could have seen some of the documentation. And he said, "I don't want to drop any of my former colleagues in it, least of all William Waldegrave. You can defend to some extent what he said." Mr. Waldegrave told the inquiry he'd have done something if only he'd known. Since Mr. Clark apparently did know, he'll be asked why he didn't do something sooner to prevent the Matrix Churchill directors ever facing trial. Mark Webster, ITN, at the Scott inquiry.
Abroad, 3 Arabs have been killed in the Gaza Strip on the day Israeli troops were supposed to have withdrawn. The Israelis say negotiations with the Palestine Liberation Organization have reached crisis point.
They woke up angry and bitter. Palestinians had been promised that Israel's military occupation of Gaza would be gradually reversed from today. And yet this was the scene in the Jabalia refugee camp. Violence again sweeping the Gaza Strip, a peace agreement in crisis. For a population already cynical, in a land occupied for as long as anyone can remember, the postponement led to an immediate response. One car bomber tried to ram a military checkpoint, but killed only himself, one of 3 Palestinians who died here today. Others were wounded by Israeli gunfire. The delay of at least 10 days will give extremists time to try and destroy the troubled peace accord. Young Islamic radicals were marching, denouncing Prime Minister Rabin and Yasser Arafat, trying to exploit differences emerging over what Palestinian autonomy really means on the ground. So this was the sight that residents of Gaza hoped they would not see. Soldiers patrolling the streets of refugee camps, looking for those causing trouble. Tonight then, the Palestinians are left to ponder another broken promise, and the Israeli flag still flies in the heart of Gaza. Robert Moore, ITN, in the Gaza Strip.
Here, a teenager who drove onto a pavement, killing 2 sisters and crippling a 3rd girl, has been jailed for just 4 years. There was immediate outrage from the victims' families. The driver, Robert Hoe, had had his high-powered Ford Escort for only 1 day. Glenn O'Glaser reports.
At Teesside Crown Court, 19-year-old Robert Hoe admitted 2 charges of causing death by dangerous driving. He was jailed for 4 years. Easter Sunday, the 3 little girls were walking hand in hand from a sweet shop when a car mounted the pavement at speed. Sisters Maria and Rachel Reed were killed instantly. Their deaths, they were just 6 and 8 years old, shocked and outraged their local community and devastated their family. Their friend, Leanne Johns, who's now 10, lost both her legs and suffered serious internal injuries. Today, the court was told Hoe had only had his Ford Escort XR3 for a day.
We feel he should have been locked up and chucked away the key. I mean, he's killed 2 young girls. He's lamed a girl for life. I mean, just to see her, we've got a constant reminder Leanne's there. And I feel really for the Reed family today more than anything. They've got little justice, I think.
The Duchess of York visited Leanne in hospital. An appeal has raised £500,000 to build her a specially equipped new bungalow home by the sea at Redcar, and tomorrow Leanne will receive a special award for bravery.
The Prime Minister told the Commons today that he was working towards a balanced deal on Northern Ireland, but he warned that a quick solution was not likely. Downing Street said Mr Major and his Irish counterpart Albert Reynolds had made some progress towards a deal.
After the weekend murder in Ulster of 2 more policemen by the IRA, Sinn Féin called a press conference in London today to warn of further violence if their terms for peace are not met. And they said the minimum they'll settle for is, in the jargon, self-determination by all the people of Ireland. But to John Major and many others besides, that phrase or any other which appears to bless the idea of Irish unity is fraught with difficulty. So much so that 2 British government sources close to the talks process told me this morning we are very stuck. Certainly the Reverend Ian Paisley, reminding the Commons of the murdered policeman, remains full of foreboding.
Does the Prime Minister not realise that the price that the IRA will be asking for a cessation of their violence is too high a price to pay for the people of Northern Ireland?
Choosing his words with extreme care, the Prime Minister said he was working for a balanced declaration. As to Mr Paisley's concerns, he said,
"In my discussions with the Irish Prime Minister, I am acutely aware of those concerns in every moment of our negotiations."
Later, though, Downing Street said there'd been further progress on the declaration. Mr Major and Mr Reynolds will now talk on the phone, probably tomorrow morning. Michael Brunson, ITN, Westminster.
A jury has heard how a father shot dead his ex-girlfriend and their baby because he was barred from seeing the child. David Edwards killed the mother in a street in Luton before taking the baby girl to a copse and shooting her too. Peter Staunton reports.
Marina Turvey proudly showed off her daughter Charlene. Within weeks, they were both dead, gunned down by her ex-boyfriend, Charlene's father. For David Edwards couldn't let the child live unless he could be part of her life. When she refused to allow him to see the baby, he confronted them in a Luton street and killed his former girlfriend with a single shot from a sawn-off shotgun. The court heard that Edwards drove off with 7-month-old Charlene. In woodland outside the town, another shot ended her life as well. This case hinges on David Edwards' mental state at the time. He's admitted manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility, but he denies murder. A note he left on the baby's body read, "Charlene's life was my life. I had the right to take it. I sacrificed her to relieve her of a life not worth having." Marina Turvey's husband, Jonathan, gave evidence this afternoon. A shot was fired in his direction as he ran from the scene of his wife's killing. As he left the courtroom, he made a lunge for the defendant and was bundled out by police. Peter Staunton, ITN, St Albans.
John Major rang President Clinton today as the hours ticked away to Thursday's deadline for a world trade deal. He urged Mr Clinton to give his negotiator extra room for manoeuvre. Only issues involving the EC and the United States stand in the way of a deal.
Back in Brussels this afternoon, Sir Leon Britton insisted it was still too early to be jubilant about a GATT deal.
You have jubilation when you reach an agreement. We have not got there yet. We're carrying on the work.
The big problem now, lobbying by the American film and television industry, which wants greater freedom to distribute its work in Europe. A whole range of new demands were put forward by US negotiators today, jeopardizing the GATT talks.
I think the time is just about past for special pleading. Everybody has their own interests. Everybody will have their own disappointments. We now have to get on with it.
Sir Leon Britton's advice to European ministers tonight was also make a last stand against Hollywood. Having mostly given way to Europe on agriculture, the Americans now seem determined to wrest every last concession for their film industry. The bargaining over GATT now seems likely to continue right until Wednesday's deadline. Libby Wiener, ITN, Brussels.
Here, a rescue mission in sub-zero temperatures has ended in tragedy, with the death of a climber airlifted off the Scottish Cairngorms. She'd been lying in the snow for more than 14 hours when help arrived.
She was carried down from the mountain on a vehicle normally used to clear the skiing slopes. Mountain rescue teams searched for 13 hours through the night in a blizzard, the wind chill factor equivalent to 15 degrees below freezing. An RAF rescue helicopter ferried 33-year-old Jane Thomas to hospital in Inverness, but she died by the time she got there. She collapsed last night just a mile from the top of a ski lift, a mile from safety. Her husband Robert left her to raise the alarm. Another member of the party tried to drag her to the ski lift, but he had to give up and make his way down. Just before noon today, this police rescue dog found her in a hastily dug snow hole. His handler managed to dig her out and stayed with her until the rest of the rescue party came to the scene.
I heard the dog barking in the mist, and when I went to investigate, I found him standing beside the casualty.
Even experienced mountaineers with all the right equipment, it seems, had no chance of surviving without help in last night's appalling conditions. Hugh Pym, ITN, in the Cairngorms.
The main news is from Russia, where the parliamentary elections have produced victory for the Neo-fascist party. That's Monday's early evening news until 5:40 tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Hello, good evening. Well, there's no end in sight yet to our very, very unsettled weather. One area of low pressure moving away, taking its rain with it. We find yet more frontal systems out here to the west, all set to sweep in across the country through the day tomorrow. But tonight we get rid of one lot, I suppose. Still quite windy across much of England and Wales, but the outbreaks of rain just gradually clearing away, skies clearing, winds falling a bit lighter, so a chilly night, fairly widespread frost, quite severe frost in parts of Scotland, distinctly possible. But towards the end of the night, increasing cloud bringing outbreaks of rain into the far west, probably right about dawn tomorrow. So tomorrow starts for many of us fine and dry, but all the while this cloud with outbreaks of rain preceded by sleet and snow spreading steadily across Scotland, down towards northern parts of England and North Wales, probably by about lunchtime. And then through the afternoon you'll find that just pushing its way in towards the Midlands and across Wales and the southwest. I think it'll probably be the end of the day into the evening before the rain reaches the far southeast. And then later on, Northern Ireland and Western Scotland do become a little bit brighter, but still with some fairly brisk showers. Cold day, as you would expect, and very windy too, with gales in places, particularly near this west coast. So then what does the rest of the week have in store for us? There's a reminder of Tuesday. By Wednesday, all that rain's gone, and we're left with gale-force winds and a mixture of bright spells and lots of showers. Those showers turning increasingly wintry as we go through Thursday, as the winds turn into the northwest. Still gales in the exposed parts, and a bitterly cold day. Friday starts off dry for many of us, but there you go again. The next lot of rain comes in from the southwest, probably getting up to Northern Ireland and much of England by the end of the afternoon. That's it from me. Good evening.
For our first question in sport, who is the footballer who claimed £20,000 for a job he never did? Who is the footballer who received over 100,000 in loans which were not repaid? Who are his teammates who received hundreds of thousands of pounds in loans which were later written off? What do they all have in common? They all belong to Tottenham Hotspur, the club that like to say, yes. World in Action, tonight, 8:30.
We're live at the new Comedy Store, just one of the big stories in London tonight. Next.
Mountain-grown beans give Maxwell House its great mountain-grown taste.
Hello, boy. Hey.
Soft and strong and long. Andrex.
At Asda, you can get all you need for a Christmas party, all in one store. And all at Asda price. Prices that are constantly checked to make sure they stay low. Permanently low. Asda price. It's all you need for Christmas.
Do you use a detergent with a separate fabric softener to get the spring freshness you like? Stop. You could make a better buy with new Bold. It's a quality detergent and spring fresh softener all in one. It captures the freshness of spring. Remember, Bold costs less than these two, so don't buy two, just buy one. Bold all in one with spring fresh softener. Better buy Bold.
Can the Dons reach the Coca-Cola Cup quarter-finals at the expense of Liverpool? Find out in Charlton Sport tomorrow at 11:35.
Ireland, Berlin and the South China Sea. Destinations on Wish You Were Here in an hour from now. But now, London Tonight.
Tonight, what price a princess? As Diana escapes the limelight, charity organisers hit back. She's let us down and it'll cost us thousands.
Have you ever been a victim of cowboy builders?
And it just turned out to be a total nightmare.
In a special investigation, we track down those responsible.
And his records outsell Michael Jackson's, his concerts are more popular than Whitney Houston's, but to the British, he'll always be good old Frank Spencer.
It is harder to get rid of a very strong comedy image, yes.
Good evening, I'm Fiona Foster.
And I'm Lindsay Charlton. This is London Tonight. Those stories and much more coming up in the next hour as we bring you the top news, sport and entertainment, of course, in and around the capital.
Tonight's 6 o'clock report, the true cost of Princess Diana's search for privacy. Today it became clear that while Diana is out of the public eye, many charities will be out of pocket.
3 charities say that they stand to lose £150,000 after the princess pulled out of a West End film premiere. Christopher Peacock has the story.
A glamorous film premiere attended by the Princess of Wales, a grandstand media occasion concerned with what the princess is wearing, which star she meets. A picture parade to be placed on the nation's breakfast table the morning after the night before, but not anymore.
At the end of this year, when I've completed my diary of official engagements, I will be reducing the extent of the public life I've led so far.
Miss Hillard? Yes, dear. I take sugar in my tea. Oh, your tea!
This is a clip from a new film planned for a charity premiere next month. It was hoped the star, Robin Williams, would fly over to meet the princess, but she's sidelined her appearances and won't be there. So the premiere has been cancelled and 3 charities will lose thousands of pounds.
I think the charities will be will desperately miss her, and we too. I mean, from the point of view of a glamorous and successful evening, she was an extremely important component.
A spokeswoman for the Princess of Wales said the princess wasn't committed to coming to this premiere. There'd been talks about it and plans made, but no final commitment. However, thousands of pounds worth of pre-publicity material had already been printed in the hope that she would attend. If she had been there, 3 national charities had hoped to benefit from the royal premiere. The Institute for the Study of Drugs Dependence expected to pick up £50,000, with the same amount also going to the NSPCC and the National Children's Home. The Institute for the Study of Drugs Dependence said, "We are extremely disappointed that Her Royal Highness has decided not to go ahead with the premiere."
I think they're going to miss her enormously. She, as far as film premieres are concerned, she was the leading royal.
The princess was a guaranteed earner for charities. Her presence at a film premiere or gala occasion guaranteed big money from an audience prepared to pay to come and see her. Her support as patron for Relate generated more than £150,000 in 5 years.
Because